Hey everybody, if I haven't met you in person before, or I haven't seen you on a screen, I'm Jeffrey Smith. I'm the current last day of my presidency of the National Association of Assessment Directors. And I just want to welcome you all. We are just going to try to do a relatively quick business meeting here just to kind of keep everybody abreast of what's been going on this last year, and briefly say some thank yous to some people and etc. So I thought I would just start with that. Actually, I want to go ahead and just have everybody that's on the board introduce themselves really quickly, and maybe we will end with Stephen Court and Jennifer McCready, who are leaving us. Everyone else on the board is either remaining or changing positions or being reelected, so aren't leaving us. Why don't we go ahead? Bonnie, I see you on the screen right now, so why don't you go first? Just introduce yourself.
Bonnie Strykowski. I'm from Mesa, Arizona. I want to give a shout out to Ray. He's another Arizonan. Haven't seen him forever. Hi, Ray.
Excellent. And Bonnie's a board member. Sherry?
Sherry Rose Bond. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, previously in Philadelphia, and I am NAAD Secretary.
Excellent.
Hi,
Darren.
Ray.
Darren.
Hi, everybody. Darren Cabral. I'm at Millard Public Schools in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm president-elect.
All right. And Sarah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Newton. I'm the incoming treasurer for NAAD, and I work at the University of Connecticut.
And Adrienne.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Bailey. I'm in Chicago. And I am starting my third term as an NAAD board member, and I work with school districts around the country on issues of equity and assessment.
Phil, oh my goodness.
What's the matter? Oh. All right. And Jennifer, why don't you introduce yourself? Jennifer, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Jennifer McCready. Hello to old friends and new. I am the outgoing secretary. I've been on the board. I am in Fairfax, Virginia, but I joined NAAD and DRE when I was with the Madison, Wisconsin and Indianapolis schools.
Jennifer, you're outgoing treasurer, not secretary.
Is that, oh, well, I'm outgoing. That's the important part. I mean, going out, not outgoing.
You're outgoing too.
Yeah.
All right. Stephen.
I'm Stephen Court. I'm the outgoing immediate past president. I was president in 2019, 2020.
Right. Did I miss somebody? I don't think I missed anybody. Right? Okay. Well, welcome everybody again. And in addition to introducing the board, I do want to say a thank you to Jennifer and Stephen, who are both leaving our leadership. Both of them have served in different capacities for several years. I think, Jennifer, this is your second or third term as treasurer that you're just ending, right? Second, right? So often when we're in person, we have a little certificate or something, and sometimes it gets sent to people. Sometimes it doesn't get sent after all, etc. So I am going to send something, and I got a new toy, and so I made these a nice little coffee coaster that's got engraving. I don't know if I can get it. That's probably backwards, but like that says Jennifer McCready and treasurer, and has her date, and then has our logo engraved on it. And then I have one for Stephen as well. So that'll be from the association, just to tell you all thank you for your time of service here. And I'll try to remember. I don't want these sitting around my office, so I'll try to send them to you so that you can use them for your coffee as you relax and you have a few hours that you don't have to do stuff. More every month as NAD members. So that helps us transition into our new officers and board members. So the election results came back, and it was really exciting. We had both, I think, I don't know if it was a record, but it was certainly the most people engaged in the election, both from a running perspective as well as voting, that we've had in several years. Roughly about 50% of our membership actually voted, which is not common for us necessarily. So it was exciting to see that many people engaged. So I do want to introduce our new members. So Charlotte Gilbrar is our new incoming Vice President / President-elect. Charlotte, you want to take a minute and introduce yourself and say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am in Casper, Wyoming. I work for Natrona County School District as the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And I'm honored and excited to be on leadership and see all the great things people are doing.
Excellent. Thank you. And then John Lindner is our new board member. John, you want to say hi and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Lindner. I'm the Director of Program Evaluation, Research, and Assessment. When I came to this district, I'm in South Washington County Schools in Minnesota. When I came here, they changed my title and they lined it up with the retirement program for people in Minnesota. So I'm trying to not to take that too personally, that I'm being pushed out on my first day, but thanks for having me.
Excellent. And then in addition to Charlotte and John, Adrian, as she mentioned, has been reelected for another term, and as well as Sarah Newton, who was had been filling a seat on our board, is now been elected to treasurer. And so she'll start a new term. And then we have one more position that's just a 1 year that's left over, which Sarah was filling, which will now get appointed by Darren, our incoming president, sometime hopefully soon before our next meeting, so that we have a full slate of people doing the work, etc. So let's take again, want to say thank you to our outgoing people and our new incoming people. I think there's lots of exciting things happening. We do want to take just a minute or two to go for Jennifer to share sort of where we are from a financial and membership perspective. I'm trying to go through this kind of fast because we don't all need to just sit here and, you know, belabor all this a lot. We have, as far as talking, getting to know each other, we can do that a little bit more after the annual business part is done. So Jennifer, if you want to do that here, hold on a second. For those that want, I will put the link to what she's gonna talk about, if I can copy it the way I'm supposed to. Right.
Okay.
So the
Thank
link
you.
is in the link to the financial membership summary is in the chat box if you want to look at it yourself.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Well, as you know, we're a small organization and our fiscal year, so-called, runs from the end of March through the end of March, because we seem to begin things with the annual conference from the before times. Since we don't do that anymore, things look a little different, but let me just run through our expenditures for the past year, and then we can look at years before just to compare. So we had no expenditures for annual meeting or miscellaneous business expenses. Our website management by Atlas Software is $35 a month, so that was a total of $420 for the year. We have a GoDaddy domain just holding a place for NAAD online in case we put a website on there one day. That's $83.14 for the year. And then we had a SurveyMonkey license for $384 a year. Our total expenditures were $887.14. Our membership, our only source of income, for this past year was $1,228.64. And for those of you who don't know how $20 goes evenly into that number, it's because any payment to PayPal is reduced by a certain amount. A $20 payment from a US member is reduced by 88 cents to PayPal, and then $19.12 goes into our account. So that's why we have that odd even number there. For comparison's sake, the expenditures during the previous year were exactly the same. This is not an error. We had the same Atlas website, $35 a month, the same GoDaddy expense, the same SurveyMonkey license for the same total. If we go back further, we're looking at more expenditures for annual meeting and business expenses, less for GoDaddy because we just started that in 2018, 2019, and we didn't have the SurveyMonkey account. So, so we had higher expenses, but somewhat differently allocated. Now, the interesting thing is from 2017 through 2020, our membership dues were close to $1,000 income in that first year, then 824, then 837. But this past year, it was $1,228.64. So we have increased our membership, or at least the dues paying membership, and that has made a significant difference. As of the end of March, excuse me, I need to, not used to speaking in public. As of the end of March, we had 81 voting members of the organization, including 14 honorary emeritus and 20 who were new during the past year. In the past 2 months, April and May, I'm not going into June, but in April and May, we added 6 more voting members, 3 of whom were new and 3 of whom were continuing. So that gave us a total of 87. And we had an additional 3 new members. So that brought us to a total of 23 since the previous year. Our general mailing list currently is about 149, I think Jeffrey told me. So we have a lot of friends of NAAD who haven't officially joined. And so we always encourage them to join. That means pay their $20. I think that's all I have in my report. Do you have any questions? I am so happy to be able to hand this over to Sarah, who I know will do a great job for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I think we are supposed to have a official vote, correct? Do we usually do that? Not just a presentation? I've not been to these meetings enough. So yeah, let's do that. So do I have someone who would motion for us to accept the treasurer and membership as provided?
I make the motion to approve the treasurer's report.
All right, a second. All right, Sarah seconds. All right, and everyone that, I'm sorry, before I do that, was there any other further questions or conversation about this? All right, all those who approve of the budget summary report, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Anyone oppose? All right, great. Sherry, there you go. You have something official you can put in the minutes.
I have been taking notes.
All right. So excellent. So next on our agenda is just the president's report, which I don't really have a whole lot. I just want to continue to say thank you to everyone who's participated this last year. I'm really gratified by, that we've seen membership growth. I feel like we've been able to do a lot of things with some increased opportunities with the webinars and several of the other things. I know it's been a crazy year for all of us, trying to figure out how to do COVID. We've all been busy and also sort of a little disconnected. I'm really excited to see, I know Darren and Steve and I have worked very closely together over the last year, and I look forward for Darren and I and Charlotte to continue working on the sort of like present, at least as far as like the setting agenda part. Obviously, as a board, I think we all work closely together, and I look forward to more of that as well. But as far as like trying to figure out some of that agenda, I like the way we've been able to, that Darren and Steve and I have had a lot that we've had in common. So I've been able to make some gains in those areas. So mainly I just want to say thank you. I don't have anything specific. In addition to that, I think I'll just pass that on then for Darren, if he wants to say a few words as the incoming president.
Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. I too enjoyed working with the board, with Stephen and Jeffrey, and then just the engagement through the webinars and through all the conversations we've had as a team. Look forward to kind of taking the baton from Jeffrey and running with it down the same path as we look at how can we serve members better? How can we increase membership? and just, I guess, increase relevancy for those who are involved in testing. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you. All right, so sort of our plan going forward is that we are going to have more of a social hour here in a little bit, where we have a few events and a few things just sort of for us to spend a little time getting to know each other a little bit and maybe have a little fun. We'll see. It's weird to do this kind of thing over Zoom, but we didn't want to just, you know, obviously we can't have a fancy dinner at a French restaurant like we did in Toronto, or at the Yale Club like we did in New York the last 2 times I went. But if we could have, you know, we wanted to have an opportunity for us to connect a little bit. But I did want to take a few minutes for us maybe to talk more about the business of the organization. And the way we discussed doing that was there were sort of 3 topics that the board was interested in getting more feedback from our membership, since we have you all here. So what we were going to do is we have 3 breakout groups, of which I'll open in just a minute. And what I want you to do is to choose one of those. And then you're going to have about 10 minutes to sort of discuss the general idea. Darren is going to be leading the group that's related to webinar content. So the idea of this is to talk about, are there, you know, what kinds of things could we be working on providing for content for webinars, or maybe they're not webinars, but just like going forward as far as like the content and sort of member services part of things. And then we'll have a group that's membership growth and recruitment, just talking about how we can do some outreach. You know, it's funny, I just had this picture of like being in church as a kid with the pack of pews Sunday kind of thing, but that's probably not. And then also we've talked about really wanting to work more on our pipeline for assessment directors. And so reaching out more to graduate students, both in recruiting students, as well as trying to, you know, that may mean providing services and working with our university and colleges as well. So I've got 3 different things. You get to choose which one you want to go to. This is only going to be about like 10 minutes or so, unless everybody tells me that they just have so much work. So we're going to target 10 minutes, and then we'll come back, and based on where we are with time and effort, maybe take a few minutes reporting out. And that really will be the end of the business portion of the meeting after that. But so I'm going to open these, and I can't remember exactly what happens when I do this. I believe when I do this, it has a little pop-up that you get to choose. But if not, there might be a breakout rooms button at the bottom of your screen instead. So here, let me try this. All right.
It says join a breakout room at the bottom,
Okay.
Jeffrey.
Okay. So you get to choose between one of those things.
I think for those, yeah, scroll to the right, you click on the number, and a join button will pop up for you guys.
And I'll give you all notice when we're getting to the end of the time.
I'm totally lost.
All right. So when you're on the screen, down on the bottom where like you have like, you might have like participants,
Yeah,
chat, there should be something that says like join a breakout room or breakout
No.
rooms.
there's not on mine.
Not on mine.
Nowhere.
Well, I have people going into them on other ones, so I'm not sure. Let me see if I can assign you to one. Stephen, where do you want to be assigned out of those 3 ideas?
You can experiment. I'll do webinar content. Oh, okay. Now I have a pop-up that showed up.
All right.
So you may have to do everyone individually.
Okay, that's fine. Sherry, where do you want to go to?
Membership, I think.
All right. Phil. You're muted, Phil. I can't hear you.
You're right. So how about webinar content?
All right. All right, Lee.
I'll go anywhere.
Let's see. How about graduate students? Is that okay?
That's fine.
There's only 3 people in there. All right, and Glenn.
to my contribution to the committee is not a very big one. That I think when I was recruiting for the organization, I just wrote personal notes to the directors of assessment in all the districts in the country that had over 50,000 students. And I think that probably got 10 new members.
Good.
Well, one point that dawns on me when it comes to this sort of thing is you have a chicken and egg problem. So people maybe don't know about us and need to hear about us and that sort of thing, but we have to have something to offer them. And it has to be substantial so that they say, sure, after a busy day during the week that we ended school, I'm going to stop what I'm doing in my data world and drop in and chat with these people. Or on a Friday afternoon, I'm going to log in and watch a webinar. So I think part of it may be take those 50,000 people districts and send them a survey and say, what would you think about an organization of people like this? And if we had one, what would you want? So I was kind of thinking that, here's the survey research girl, that maybe we ought to be asking our possible clientele, what would bring them in? Like, what would the thing be besides having a lovely dinner at a meeting? And I've been to those, they're great. But, you know, it's hard to, you need to have something concrete to point to, I think, for people to be interested. So I think you have a chicken egg problem. Or a yes and doing things in parallel.
I know the board has talked a lot about that. That we always had that issue of like, we have to have something, a reason for people to join, but it's hard to have things to do if you have very small membership with very few, you know, relatively narrow resources. And so I know part of our goal has been to try to get to that, whatever the, I don't know where the tipping point will be, but like to start to grow us there with content towards getting that. But, you know, part of that depends on us all agreeing what it is that we want to be at some point, right? I mean, if we're going to be something other than just the annual meeting, if we're going to try to do these sorts of webinar stuff.
Well, and I think that was part of my point. It's like, I perceive, having done this for almost 30 years, that a lot of my colleagues are coming out of classrooms around the state who don't have data backgrounds. I have a doctorate. And so I think in North Carolina, we have a number of people who run testing who do it by rote. They were taught to follow this procedure. They use whatever reports are canned and given to them, and that's the end of what they know and can do. And so do we want to reach out to that group, or do we want this to be the research evaluation, data head people? Because those are really different audiences.
That's a good point.
Well, from my history with this organization, which also goes on for many decades, there are other organizations that address the research and, you know, research angle or research end of the system. But this was an organization focused on practitioners, you know, people who need to know what to do and need to have the resources. And you're right, we've noticed more and more test directors coming from backgrounds without any experience in data. So they used canned programs, or they used inappropriate things because that's all they know. And, you know, I would like to see us offer something that they can use.
So let me ask. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Diane.
No, I said part of it depends on what the state offers.
Yeah.
And so that would also be interesting. It's like, well, what are the tools the state's giving people in these roles to use? So like right now, I'm waiting for reports to load on an SFTP site from which I can run my reports. And if you didn't have that, then you'd be going into the whatever the SCORE program is, exporting the data and creating pivot tables. Either way it works, but it's like, well, what tools do you have? And that's just this week as we're ending school and have test scores today. Obviously, there's a whole lot of other things we do.
So let's like pretend that that this other group that's looking at webinar content, that they figure out everything for the next 2 years, and it's like super in depth and it's everything everybody wants, right? We still only have 80 members of our organization. Like somehow we still have to get the word out, and we still have to be able to solicit. So, part of it is having something that people want, but I'm sure part of it is just awareness as well. And Ray, you kind of mentioned writing personal letters to the directors of the big school districts. I know when I started, I made an effort to reach out both to all the networks that I'm a part of, but also.
Jeffrey, you've seized up.
Oh, he seems fine at my end.
Everybody seized up.
I think it's you, Sherry.
Yeah, now you're still, yeah.
And so I wonder if, and then I reached out to my network, but I also tried to encourage everybody to reach out to their networks as well. But I don't know where all the networks are. I'm just trying to think of like, what are some logistics, some ways that we could go about actually just getting our name out there and encouraging, people to do it. I mean, in every email I've sent out to our group, I always say, hey, please forward this on. But I don't know that that's really happening much, right? So it's more of an issue of, like, how do we, I don't know how I would go about getting I don't know what the organizations look like in other states and cities and regions of networks that are more regional. Like ours, there is no, we call it CADCA, but there is no organization. It's essentially just a bunch of people come together, and it's whoever's hosting the next month is who figures out the agenda. There is nobody to contact. There's nobody in charge. And I'm sure there are some regions and cities, states that have more coordinated, but I think what we're really targeting probably is more the people who aren't part of networks. And so, because they don't have those sorts of supports. And so it's trying to figure out, how do we connect with those people? And I don't know what the brilliant idea there is. Maybe other people.
Yeah, in North Carolina, we get trained once a month, or at least my staff member does. I used to. And there are 8 regions in the state. And so I can easily send it to the people in my region, but I just don't think it would be that difficult to get the names of the other 7 leaders of those other areas and say, hey, would you please send this out? It would serve your people. And so I wonder where people get their testing training, and then is that an avenue to find those leaders, the people who do the training, or someone. So that's part of my question. Out of your 80 people, how many states are we covering?
Right.
There's a lot in the Chicago, Illinois area, because that's where I pushed when I was here. I know when Steve was president, he obviously had more network from people in the sort of Virginia area, and he had several people join. I don't know how many of them have persisted. I have some analysis somewhere. I don't know where it is off the top of my head. It is not very strong to the west or to the south. It is more in sort of the central and New Englandy and south central, or southeast area is where I would say the dominant majority of our membership is. Because largely we're a small group that's sort of one-on-one connection. So it's been very tight networks, right?
But with our 80 members, even if they only represent, half the states, could we not develop a template, a script, if you will, of some of the things we offer, but also a question as to what would you like to see offered, and then ask people in each, send it to our members and say, would you share this? Just as Diane said, there's a group in her state that she can reach out to. When I was test director in Ohio, in Columbus, I could reach out to the other test directors, especially of the large districts, because I already had them in an organization, and maybe we can do it. So it's kind of what Ray did, but instead of trying to cover the whole country, if we each took responsibility for our state, and then people who are from the same state, we don't want to duplicate efforts, but I'm just thinking it's a more personal approach to say, I know Ohio, Diane knows Carolina, Ray knew Alaska, right? Illinois, whatever works for you, and see if we can reach out that way. Because I always find the personal approach better than just you know, a letter from a president of an organization that maybe I never heard of.
Right, right.
Yeah, a couple of other things that maybe didn't work too well. But one of them was sort of following up on this idea of local associations or state associations, where we produced a thing that was back in the days of paper, a trifold that described the organization and provided ways to contact it and a couple other little notes on resources people could access. And then I guess we duplicated those and provided them to anyone who wanted to hand them out at a state meeting or attend a state assessment meeting. So I think that also probably generated 3 or 4 members across the United States, but used up a few hundred of the trifolds. But that was a way of giving people who were members, who were active within their own state, something positive that they could do as part of their role in NATD then. Another one is free memberships are cheap since we don't do very much. So offering somebody a free membership for a year, you know, maybe 90% don't continue on after the year because we've had some years as an association where it didn't do very much. But again, some of those people got picked up. How I got picked up was Joe O'Reilly offered me a glass of scotch in the bar of the Hilton in San Francisco. And after sitting listening to the group for about 10 minutes, I decided they were people I liked and would like to have access to. But I don't know if you can offer people a glass of scotch just on the party day.
Well, and probably I got in because of people either from MSAN or from Wake County, who's next door and has a large presence at. The other piece of this is NAAD mostly gets hooked up through AERA and NCME. The average testing director isn't at either of those meetings.
Right.
Right? They have to have a research background or their district won't pay for them to go.
And even then, sometimes they won't pay nowadays.
Well, it happens off and on here for sure.
Yeah, I know we need to get back to the groups. Part of my idea is like, there's the personal side, but then there's just the getting the names in the first place. I wonder if we might also need to take maybe a marketing type approach, but not marketing in the sense of having like one thing that people everywhere would want to come to, but maybe we do, like, I don't know about you, I respond to surveys, I'm a survey person, right? Like if we actually approach this, like said, we're doing a research study where we actually tried to do a survey and then reach out to those kinds of people, like you said, Diane, like those leaders of those groups. If we just send them hey, invite your people to become a member of this group, they may not forward that off. But if you say, hey, there's this national research project trying to get at X about assessment directors, maybe then people will do it. But then we get the contact information as part of that, right? And then we can reach back out as a follow-up to those things. Like that might be, like to me, I think that might be a good approach. But so, all right. Well, I'm going to close our group and bring everybody back unless somebody has a burning thought, idea. No?
Good,
All right.
rock and roll.
All right. Thank you all for participating. Let's see. I think you get a minute breakout. Or
their own stuff
Sure.
locally, but they aren't going to be the national experts, professionals that you need.
Yeah.
So you integrate and balance. And lead. That's one of the important things.
Hi, Lee. I haven't seen you for a while either. Hi.
Is it end of school year, Lee? Did you make it?
We're not done, and I'm
Oh,
dying. I'm
okay.
still dying.
I won't jinx you then. I won't say you made it then. Okay.
Thank you. We are continuing our state testing all the way up to the last day of school, which for us is June 15th.
Okay.
So yeah, ask
So-
me on the 16th.
Yeah. I'll be thinking of you in about 9 days. Yeah.
All right, everybody. I think everybody's back in. I thought we'd just take a few minutes. Maybe the leader, or if you want to nominate somebody else from your group, of each group, could kind of just do a quick summary. Maybe the one idea, the one thought you thought was the strongest, or if there was a theme to iterate. I'll go first so that Darren and Sarah can have a minute more to think about it, since I'm just springing on them that I was going to do it this way. So. So our group I was in the group talking about how we could reach out to membership recruitment. Diane sort of voiced what I think many of us, as we talked about this issue, that there's sort of this chicken and egg scenario of like, we need to have content in order for us to really attract people, but it's hard to have the resources to provide content without the people, and it kind of goes back and forth. But if we sort of like assume that the webinar group comes up with all this great content for us, how would we even get that out there is the issue. And so we talked about both some potential for us to create maybe a template for communication that we would give to people in our group to reach out to their personal connections, as being, and really try to extend those personal connections. We also talked about, like, one idea I've had that I haven't really talked about with anybody is maybe doing sort of I think there's just a lot of people who don't know who we are and we don't know how to get a hold of them. But if we approach maybe as a research project, and Stephen had this idea, I think like a year ago, we just never really got there with it, of actually doing a study that was a national study where, I don't know about you all, but like if I get a survey or people invite me to our national study and say, use a snowball methodology, forward this on to anyone else in your network who does, I think people might be more likely to participate in a national study, but as part of that, getting their contact information that we could then follow up with them about stuff, that might be a way to even just grow our contact list and our marketing list, as opposed to just the people who are membership. So those are a couple of ideas that we talked about in the membership group. Stephen or Darren, I'm going to hit you up next.
All right. So we talked a little bit about getting input from membership for what is it for next year. We talked about possibly a theme. We talked about, I think it was met positively of how we were responsive last year, where a topic came up, and then a couple weeks later we offered something to our membership. So that was good. And then we were kind of brainstorming about assessing young kids. How do you assess EL kids? And then just some non-traditional topics that could maybe be a nice complement to more of a structured theme throughout the academic year. So.
Excellent. Sarah, I don't see your picture. Okay.
So in my group, we talked about graduate student recruitment, and also, slightly more broadly, just, new member recruitment, not just graduate students. And so we talked about a variety of different ideas, including populating a list of graduate student programs that serve future directors of assessment, developing some of our webinars that are geared toward the people that we want to recruit, insofar as, what are the benefits of joining NAAD? How can we show that the organization, what the organization does for you? And we can target different prospective, groups of members with those different webinars. For example, grad students or early education directors, curriculum directors, things of that nature. And so we also talked about targeting university-related current members, so those folks that are in universities right now who might have access to graduate students. Doesn't necessarily mean faculty, but there are also directors of assessment that we have in our current membership that work in university settings, who could potentially help. I know that in the past we've used that route, and that was how we started to get graduate student membership off the ground, and it could be another viable way to do that again. Also broadening the areas that we're targeting, not just in educational assessment, but also maybe teacher education, leadership studies programs, things of that nature. And targeting related organizations such as AERA Division H, where pools of graduate students already exist. who are interested in research in schools. Also curriculum director associations. There's one in Casper, Wyoming, which Charlotte mentioned, that that could be a source not only of recruitment for directors, but also the graduate students that may be doing internships within that organization. And also expansion into early education programs, and educators responsible for testing students early on who may want or need additional resources beyond what they're just getting in their preparatory programs. And so those are, I think, were the kind of main points that we came up with. Please correct me if I missed something though.
Great. Well, that sounds great, both Darren and Sarah. I know last year Stephen had really pushed this idea of committees, and I know that we are hoping, and we were able to meet those committees around some of these areas last year, but probably not as evenly and consistently as we would like to do. But I think part of what we talked about is trying to have some of these committees that would actually follow through on some of these ideas over this next year. And that I'm hoping that some of you that are on this, that chose to be here today, will be part of that leadership as we do that. And hopefully you'll be hearing from us, or from Darren and our team overall, about that soon. So we are right on, we're doing really well on my agenda. My guess is we're not that far off, so that's pretty cool. I had no idea how long this would take to do. So our idea right now is that we were going to take a potential short break if you want it, like if you need to go to the bathroom, or if you want